digitized. It's a video vocab library, we call it, and straight word of the day library. And you can go through the vocab, and if you know the vocab word already, no problem, just go to the next one. And all you have to do is click the link and it pulls up a YouTube video. And 30 seconds to a minute. I have a couple videos that are more like 2 minutes because it's either an action sequence or something like, I don't want to interrupt that James Bond moment. Right? Maybe, this is one of my longest videos, it's 2 minutes. But, you know, you guys think you could invest a minute or two a day? So I am going to get that out to you this coming week. In the meantime, you can go to the YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. But you can go to the YouTube video channel and search the video vocab and watch them now. But I will send you that library because it makes it really convenient. So all you have to do is click, pull it up. I'll say that anything on that list that has the number 2 next to it, it says 2ND, second, that means secondary usage. Meaning you better watch it, because maybe you know it, but one of SAT's favorite things to do is to take a vocab word that everybody knows and use it in a secondary meaning. Did I mention that to you last time? So they'll take a word that clearly everyone knows and use it in a way you're not used to. So if there's a second on it, you should, or I think even 1 or 2 of them say tertiary, like it's a 3rd level usage. Definitely watch those. It's basic words, but you gotta know how to use it. So they'll take a word like pedestrian. You all know what pedestrian means, right? We're not gonna use it like that. We're gonna use it to, okay, so the English teacher returned your English paper and said, it's a rather pedestrian effort. Expect better from you next time. You see a big C on the paper. Like, I wasn't walking when I wrote this. What does he mean? What does she mean? It was a pedestrian effort. I was sitting down the whole time I wrote this. It means, you know, it goes back to the day when only the nobility and your aristocracy could afford horses. As I look down upon all of you as pedestrians, you know, you're so low and so common, right? That's where it comes from. And so pedestrian was the average person because we Slavs couldn't afford a horse, so we were pedestrians. So if everything was pedestrian, it means really common in a rather snooty kind of way, right? In a negative way. And so that's an example of a word that everyone knows that they would use differently. So anyway, I just thought I'd start the class today by playing a 2-minute video from Sherlock Holmes. You guys ever watch these movies? You gotta watch them. Robert Downey Jr. I love the guy, one of my favorite actors. A terrific presentation of Sherlock Holmes, and this will give you an example of the vocab that, this one's a longer one. You can't watch Sherlock Holmes without having like multiple words in the same video. So sometimes there'll be a video with just 1 word, but here we go. lot shorter than that. How do I, there. So I've got others, I've got Little Mermaid, we've got videos from all kinds of different places, from all kinds of different movies. Why are all the Disney showing up there? Anyway, like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds a minute, okay? And it shouldn't take too much of your time to build some good vocab. Were there any vocab in there that you did know already? Was there any vocab in there that you didn't know already? Keymaker. How about untenable?
Yeah.
Feral. F-E-R-A-L. Meaning wild. Like the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so some of them you may know, some of them you may not know. I mean, everybody's vocab, it's impossible. Everybody's vocab is not linear in its acquisition. So that's why I think that PDF will help you, so everyone individually, independently will be able to say, I already know that one, let me check this one. There's over 600 words. I think 500 videos, 500 something videos. So you won't be able to watch them all between now and test date, but watch as, and you won't need to because you'll know many of them. So there you go. I guess go here. Here? Here. Oh, here. Okay, so I will be getting you that list this week, I promise. Section 2, I did ask you to start checking your own work to save us some time. And I want to talk, we're a small enough class that I want to be able to answer everybody's questions. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we hash it out. This is where I'm not going to pretend to teach you the entire English language that's being covered in here because you know most of it. I want to spot check what are we missing. And everybody's going to be in a different place, so please be vocal. Please let me know your questions so that we can address them. Section 2, page 1212. What's the first item we want to discuss?
7. Yeah.
Number 7. And what did you pick for an example?
I picked D.
Sorry?
D.
Okay, so number 7, the issue here is idiom. What's an idiom? An idiom is just, this is an expression, this is how we say it. Why? Some English dude said it that way once, and now we say it that way. Idioms and vocab, guys, you have to have the attitude that, next question. I gave my best shot. You can't prepare for the vocab and idioms on this. I've had students ask me, is there a list of idioms I can study? Like, no. Short answer, that's no, because there's bazillion idioms, and I have no idea which idioms they're gonna throw at you. So if you recognize it, give it your best shot, but the main issue on idioms and vocab is don't lose time on this one. Do process elimination, pick an answer and move on. You can't let that get inside your head, because you know it or you don't.
Yeah.
All right?
So there's no real reason for it.
So the answer is, I can give you some reasoning here. It says it serves as a digestive aid, right? Because it does the job of a digestive aid. And that's why we would say as. And that's why we would not say like. Because like is
is like.
No, the answer is as. It's not gonna be like, because to say it serves like a digestive aid would be that it serves similar to, you know, kind of, to say it serves like it means similar to it. But to serve as a digestive aid means in place of it, or it actually does it. So minor nuanced difference. And why is it not for? Because it's not.
Oh wait, hold on.
So that's idiom. Or section 2.
Did I do the wrong section?
Uh-oh.
I did that at first. I did the wrong section.
Uh-oh. I can still, let me take a peek to address your question though. We're gonna be in practice test 3, section 2?
What page one? I don't know.
We'd be, page 1100, yes?
Yeah.
I bet you 1100. Let's take a look with Lily on page 1100. Even though she did the wrong
The second
section.
time.
That's all right.
It's okay, I accidentally did practice test 9, section 2, and then I realized it and I got sad.
All right.
You should do like sticky notes, like in the slides.
Yeah.
I don't know why they decided to go backwards. But the reason I want to go backwards with 1 through is because on 9 and 10 were more recently released tests. And I wanted to save those towards later.
I'm
But that's
so
right.
confused, you're talking about one.
Oh, yeah. This guy's an idiot. So look at page 1100, everybody. We'll take a look at Lily's question 7. You see where it is? It says artificial light sources. You see that? Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Question, where is this sentence located? Yeah, I was like, that wasn't a very good question. Yeah, it's at the beginning of a paragraph. So what's very important about first sentences of a paragraph? Transition, transition, transition. So the very first thing you better do is go look at what were we talking about in the previous paragraph, okay? If you're at the first, if you want to fix the first sentence of a paragraph, you better see how it flows in. We talked about flow in, flow out last week. There's a little bit of that involved in that sense. So if we look at the previous paragraph, we're talking about how natural light effects or artificial light can affect productivity and, yeah, right? How there's cost to employers and it affects productivity. So when we start out our next sentence, it would be nice to be talking about what we were just talking about for a good transition, which we were talking about how it affects productivity. So if I look at option A, aside from lowering worker productivity, I like that. That's a nice flow in. Let's check the rest of it though, and we have to watch out for commas. We have to watch, do we have an independent clause or a dependent clause? That's a dependent clause, comma. So I need an independent clause. Artificial light sources are also costly, typically constituting anywhere from 25 to 50% of the building's energy use. That flows nicely. So the transition is good. I've got a dependent clause, comma, and then a completed thought after. This looks good. This is, I like it. I'm not going to pick it yet. I'm going to go check my other options. Because sometimes what will happen is you'll like it and you won't notice something's wrong in it. And then you go to the others and you go, oh, I like this one too. Let me go critically analyze what's the difference. B, the cost of artificial light sources. We weren't talking about the cost, we're talking about the productivity. So I don't like the flow in already. But aside from lowering worker productivity, typically constitutes anywhere from 25 to 50% of a building's energy use. It's not, I don't see anything like jumps out as wrong here, do you? Is this the one you picked?
No, I picked D.
Okay, the cost of artificial, but you know what's wrong? It's not the cost that constitutes 25 to 50% of the energy. It's the artificial lights that constitute 25 to 50. You see what I'm saying? So it's slightly, that's what's wrong here.
Okay.
And then C, typically constituting 25 to 50% of building's energy use, in dependent clause, comma, artificial light sources lower worker productivity and are costly. And I just threw that on at the end. If ever you see that, that's wrong. If ever you see, here I just made a statement. Yeah, and here's one more thing. That's not good writing. And are costly. Tacking that on at the end is not good writing, okay? So beware of that. They do that a lot. There's nothing wrong with this sentence in terms of syntax and punctuation. It's just not good writing to go, okay, and one more thing. And the flow in wasn't talking about productivity, that's why A is better as well. And then D, artificial lights, which lower worker productivity and are costly, typically constitute anywhere from 25 to 50% of a building's energy use. Also, they've given you, I think, except for B, they give me a bunch of sentences that are not wrong grammatically and punctuation. But if you compare A and D, there's two reasons why A is better. The flow of the sentence is better without as much, the work of productivity and or costing. And the transition from the previous paragraph is better. So many times you'll get these options, and it says which choice best combines. And hey, some of these are not wrong, but this one's better, right? So that's that. Let's jump back then to the section that we're in. You save your question, Lily, save your questions on this. We are gonna end up having that at some point, so save those questions for another time as well, but yes.
I don't really understand two.
I beg your pardon?
Number two.
Did we walk through number 2 together?
No.
All right, let me talk about number 2. Nobody likes number 2 because, did you pick D for number 2?
Yes.
Why does everybody pick D? Because it seems to flow nice, and it ends nice, and everything looks good about it, right? Here's the issue. For number 2, would you please circle this and call this a content-focused question? This is a content-focused question, and what the SAT loves to do is ask you to give them something very specific, and then offer you other options that sound nicer, flow better, but don't give them what they ask for. So everything on this kind of a question hinges 100% on, do you give them what they ask for? I think D flows better and sounds nicer. But that's not the issue. The issue is, can you give them a most relevant detail? And let's talk about why D doesn't do that. If you want it to be relevant, we better check our context. So let's read the sentence flowing in. Let's see, would you read that sentence flowing in, from sentence 3 to address?
I'm gonna start to address, all right. To address the problem of disposal, farmers have found a number of uses for acid way.
So what do I expect in my next sentence?
Acid way.
The number of uses for acid way that farmers have, right? That should be the natural flow. So if you look at D, the option says, they, who's they? Farmers. Can add it, what's it? Acid way. To livestock feed as a protein supplement, which is an important part of their, element of their diet, right? Like, you didn't give me a detail. Like, no kidding, protein's important for everyone's diet, right? You did not add a relevant detail to what it would, to the context. And to be relevant, it has to be relevant to the context. So I'm looking to find out, what do farmers do with acid whey? They add it to livestock feed as a protein supplement, which is really good. Yeah, we know that. So D flows nicely and sounds nice, but it doesn't give them the relevant detail. So let's go take a look at why C doesn't work. They can add it to livestock feed as a protein supplement, while sweet whey, timeout, I thought we were talking about acid whey. We were talking about what farmers do with acid whey. So this is not relevant. And let's look at option A. They can add it to livestock feed as a protein supplement, comma, and people, well, farmers are people, but you're switching the subject on it. We were talking about something else, and you're suddenly talking about Greek yogurt, which a lot of students look at B and say, what does electricity production have to do with anything?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's one of the uses farmers have for acid whey. And that's why B will be the answer. Okay, so that's a real tough one. I think most of the content-focused questions are a little easier than that one because it seems so out of the blue. And if you're not a farmer and you've never dealt with this, it really seems irrelevant, right? But that's the issue. Content-focused question, you gotta give them specifically what they're asking for, and it's usually not the one that flows the nicest. Next.
Number 6.
Number 6, where is this sentence located? Beginning of the paragraph. So I'm going to check my flow in as for the transition, right? We're talking about what they try to do with acid whey to keep it from polluting, and government officials are trying to find additional solutions for reusing acid whey, right? That's the way the previous paragraph ended. So for my flow in, this says, though these conservation methods, remember these is the key? Are there conservation methods that were being talked about? Yeah, so my flow in is okay. These conservation methods can be costly and time consuming. They're well worth the effort. Well, why'd you tell me that? Remember the flow in, flow out? Why'd you tell me they're well worth the effort? Is there anything good gonna come out of this? I expect you to talk about some positives that will come out of it. So, should we delete it? My flow in, I'm happy, let's check the flow out. Nutritionists consider Greek yogurt to be a healthy food. It is an excellent source of calcium and protein and serves as a digestive aid. Well, I guess that's a positive. I'm not crazy about that transition, the flow. I'm not crazy about the flow out. I may need to go look at, keep all, both of my yes deleteds and both of my no don't deleteds, because I like my flow in. The flow out maybe works, but I'm not crazy about it, so the reason matters. Let's go first, check my yes deleteds. Yes, delete it because it does not provide a transition from the previous paragraph. We established that as 100% false. Throw out A. It's a good transition. B, yes, delete it because it fails to support the main argument of the passage as introduced in the first paragraph. That's a true statement, but it's irrelevant. Right? This is one of the favorite things to do, is to give you a true statement. Why should it have to support the main, this is a different paragraph. Right? You know what else it doesn't talk about? Tom Brady's stats in the previous Super Bowl. It doesn't. That wouldn't be relevant here, right? Well, Tom Brady's stats in the Super Bowl are always relevant to me, but not here. All right, so, yeah, so B is one of their favorite traps, a true statement that's not relevant. Okay, so let's look at don't delete it, because it continues the explanation of how acid whey can be disposed of safely. No, it doesn't. It doesn't explain how it can be disposed of. Well, if D's not good, I'm punting. No, because it sets up the argument in the paragraph for the benefits of Greek yogurt. Kinda. I guess this one stinks the least. Yeah, it does have a nice flow in, and it does set you up with some positives that would follow. I wish they would have just said, well worth the effort. Greek yogurt, like, okay. Wish they would have a better transition, but that's gonna be a
Yeah,
rest
I was
answer.
confused about it. It's like effort and then Greek yogurt, like, oh.
Well worth the effort, and then, they jumped to Greek yogurt. What were your answers that you chose instead of D on this one?
B.
B.
Yeah.
So the true statement that actually doesn't apply in this case. Yeah, that's one of the worst traps. Was B as well? Okay. All right, let's continue. Next item.
11.
11. So 2 things to remember about punctuation. Your first job, and I started to talk a little bit about this last week, but let me take it a little further. If you want to fix this underlined portion of the sentence, you need to look everywhere else in the sentence. Is there any other punctuation that could impact what happens here? Then you need to isolate independent clauses and dependent clauses and potential parenthetical clauses. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at all 4 of my options, propose some sort of punctuation after it. So I'm going to read up to it and see if that's a dependent clause or independent clause. Because as I've looked throughout the whole sentence, I don't see any other punctuation. Do you? Yeah, so no other punctuation is going to impact this. So because, we're starting with because, so we already have a dependent clause coming, right? Because consumers reap the nutritional benefits of Greek yogurt and support those who make and sell it, independent clause, I want a comma. What can I not put here? Any one of our hard stops, period, semicolon, or colon. So let's go get rid of all the hard stops. Gotta go get rid of D, because they all require a completed thought before. So we're definitely gonna have a comma. However, we need to make sure that what follows is a completed thought, an independent clause now. Therefore, farmers, now, didn't we already say because? So I don't need to say therefore, because that's redundant. Same thing with so. That's also remember our 3 C's? Therefore, so, because, they're all showing causality. So it's just redundancy. Let's check B. Farmers and businesses should continue finding safe and effective methods. Yeah, that's a complete thought, we're good. And the other 2 were redundant. Redundancy, by the way, note to self, probably 2-3 times per test. Watch out for redundancy. 2 to 3 times per test, watch out for redundancy, repetitiveness. Next. Okay, I'm looking at number 13 from a long way away, and I immediately like A. I don't know, I have to check it, I'm not gonna assume, because to assume, the English teacher has told you what that means, to assume makes an, yeah, okay, we know that one. I'm not gonna assume, but I like, why am I immediately attracted to A? Conciseness. Anytime you see a really short answer compared to the rest, go take a close look. If it works, pick it, because conciseness. And that's all you need to know about 13. Next.
So they're gonna do that more concise.
Correct.
Number,
Sometimes the answers will be wrong as well.
17?
17. Oh, time out, before we get to 17, on 16, everyone got 16 right?
Yes.
Good, good. Please circle the word being.
Yeah,
Right?
you got it.
I did it, okay. I want to make sure, because I don't want to have to assign push-ups for anyone picking an answer that has being in it.
Is that only after a
If being, blanket, you see the word being in your answer, go, nah, that's not. 17. So 17 is exactly what we were talking about before, isolating independent clauses and dependent clauses.
Yeah, I got both of them wrong.
So let's take a look at number 17. Is there any other punctuation, is there any punctuation anywhere in the sentence that could impact this? Yeah, there's a comma after soot. There's also a comma after box and expert. Anything afterwards? No. I better go check how those commas come into play. According to box, well, a leading Greenland expert just creates a parenthetical, so I can ignore it. So those 2 commas don't impact, right? So I'm going to ignore it, and I'm going to read, according to Box, tundra fires in 2012 from as far away as North America produced great amounts of soot. Great amounts of soot. Is that a completed thought? As I spat it out, yes, it is. So I have a completed thought. After a comma, what may I not have? Another completed thought. What do we call it when we have, what do we call it when we have an independent clause, complete, and a comma, and then another independent clause? What is this called? The dreaded comma splice. You've spliced 2 thoughts together with a comma, and that's no good. That's a major issue on this test, and if ever any of you try the ACT, even bigger issue there. Watch out for comma splices. They will intentionally offer you options that separate 2 clauses with a comma. You better make sure that one of them is a dependent clause if it's a comma. Okay? So, after soot, I have a completed thought. I cannot have a completed thought afterwards. So test all of the options, let's test option A. Some of it drifted over Greenland, I already have a completed thought, don't I? Get rid of A. Some soot drifted over Greenland, I already have a completed thought, get rid of B. I'm gonna try to delete it. Some drifted over Greenland, another completed thought. The only option is to insert the which, some of which, and now I have a dependent clause.
Why does that make it a dependent clause?
Because some of which is not subject. Some of which is, I'm not 100% grammar Nazi, so I've forgotten the term for that clause. But whenever you use which is not a subject pronoun. I can't make no candy use of it, but anyway, in this case, let's remember also the philosophy that says 3 of these are wrong, and I can disprove the other ones. And then some of which, well, this is the only thing that's distinct from the others. Some of which. So if you want to, talk to any grammar Nazis who teach English here, you can ask that question more specifically. In English, you ask, why is this not acting as a subject here? Next. Number 20. Don't worry about number 20. This is a very specialized question, and you're not likely to see it ever again. But, FYI, by definition, a self-reinforcing cycle means this. The last thing, okay, so you start here, the last thing you say must be the first thing you said. So that what? So that it continues to go. So what's the first thing that was said? As the ice melts. So what's the last thing we have to say? Ice has to be melting to keep this going. So yeah, if you chose B, it raises the temperatures, right? But you now have to say the ice melts, and then it'll be self-reinforcing. Okay. Next.
Number 24.
Okay, let's go to 24. So this is known, or by me anyway, as an introductory dependent clause. I'm introducing someone or something, comma. So let me give you another example. Don't look at this question for a moment. Let me just talk about, let me give you a sentence. Walking through the woods, comma, the beautiful fall colors reminded me of home in New Hampshire. What a beautiful sentiment, a nice sentence that's entirely grammatically wrong. Why? Let's try that again. Walking through the woods, comma, the beautiful fall colors were not walking through the woods. Right? Who's walking through the woods? Comma, I was reminded of home in New Hampshire by the beautiful fall colors. I have to say, if I bother to introduce someone or something, comma, I must now, after the comma, say who it is. And that's introductory clause, introductory dependent clause. So that's what's happening here. Who is it that has become frustrated trying to solve difficult problems? I, the author. That's what has to come after the comma. Now, the old SAT used to have this issue, would show up like 4 and 5 times a test. Now, maybe once. And I'd love for you to earn that point when you see it. You might see it once, and I want that point. Next. Yes, 26. So here's the issue. Like you have an independent clause, and then you have comma, such as, for example, etc., right? So the natural pause is before. And then such as or for example announces your examples, right? Question, what's the job of a colon? One of the jobs of a colon. to announce the list that's gonna happen. So this, to use both such as or for example, and the colon, would be considered redundant. So, note to self, if you're gonna say such as or for example, you may not use the colon. If you're gonna use the colon, you do not say such as or for example. That's considered redundant. So we can immediately get rid of B and C, right? Let's compare, always, I really want to encourage you guys to compare and contrast the answers they offer. Let's go take a look at what we have left. Like, so if we knew that, if we knew going in that we can't use the colon with such as, B and C are out easy. Now let's compare and contrast A and D. What's similar, what's different? What's similar, what's different in A and D?
There's an extra comma.
D just has an extra comma, right? They both require a comma before such as. So that's gonna be there, that pause has to be there no matter what. So here's a strategy I want you to apply. When you're trying to decide, should I put this other comma in or not? Read with no pause. Test the no pause option, and if it seems to work for you, pick it. I would rather reduce the comma usage. The objective is to have your thoughts and sentence flow without as many stops and pauses. So this is a strategy. This is, don't bring this to your English teacher. They might not, grammar Nazi might have a fit with this strategy, but the point is, unfortunately, I remember, I've heard lots of English teachers say the opposite. Well, put a pause there, and if it sounds good, put the comma. I'm like, yeah, oh, that's the exact opposite, because there's so many reasons why pausing could sound good.
Yeah,
I was taking a breath to say the next word. I was trying to figure out how to pronounce the next word, so I paused and it seemed normal. I paused and it was okay, I'm okay with it. You've got to do the exact opposite, okay? Your strategy is read the no pause option first. If it sounds good, pick it. So let's go test the no pause option. Well, they both have a pause before, but we'll test the no pause after. We're gonna say, the spaces are usually stocked with standard office equipment, such as photocopiers, printers, and fax machines. I like it, I'm picking it. There's no need to pause after such as. Okay? Test your no pause option first. If it works, and I'm promising you this up front. They do this a lot. The no pause option won't always work. I'm warning you up front. I test it, but I know it's not always gonna work. Okay? Next. 28. Considering deleting the underlying sentence. So this is flow in, flow out, right? I'm reading the sentence. The cost of launching a new co-working business in the United States is estimated to be approximately $58,000. So my thought is, what should flow in? We're talking about people trying to start this business because they give me the cost. Well, does that mean we were trying to talk about how to start the business? There's that timing clue of launching. If we want to launch it, that means we must have been talking about how to do so. And then for my flow out, the question, why'd you bother to tell me that it cost 58 grand? How is that relevant? And there is no flow out, because there is a flow out. So let's go check my flow in first. The spaces often include small meeting areas and large rooms. So we're not even talking about launching a business. So I don't like the flow in. I check my flow out. Again, it has nothing to do with starting a business. So I don't like it. I want to delete it. Let's go check the reasons. It blurs the paragraph's main focus with a loosely related detail. That's the perfect answer. It blurs the focus. D says it repeats information that has been provided earlier. I didn't read anything earlier about the cost, so it's not a repeat. So who said we should keep it? Who thought maybe we should keep it? because B would be false and A might be a true statement, I don't know. A could be a true statement, but it's not a good flow in, flow out. Next. Next item. 32, looks like we have a punctuation issue. All right. Is there any other punctuation in the sentence that could potentially impact what we do here? Overtime, comma, well, that's just kind of like an intro, I don't think that's gonna impact this. I do have commas after developer, graphic designer, freelance writer, what looks like a list. Okay. Overtime, I've gotten to know several of my co-working colleagues. Up to this proposed punctuation, do I have a completed thought?
Yeah.
I've gotten to know several of my co-working colleagues.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could have a hard stop, I could have a colon. Option A, option B, I could have a hard stop. Let's check option A. One of the jobs of a colon is to give a list, and that's exactly what we have after. So I'm picking A. It cannot be B, because what does a semicolon require afterwards? Another independent clause, which just did not happen. So, this is one of the, uses of colon is to announce a list. But again, notice I'm always checking, do I have an independent clause or a dependent clause before? Next. The 3 C's, let's check it out. We talked about the 3 C's transitions. What's the relationship before and after? Beforehand, we see that philosophy is in fact very useful. It's a practical major, offering students a host of transferable skills with relevance to the modern workplace. So, philosophy, positive. Afterwards, philosophy is the study of meaning and the values underlying thought and behavior. I always ask the question first, does that contrast with philosophy being positive? Does that contrast with philosophy being positive? I said, no, not at all, it doesn't go against it. So I'm gonna immediately go get rid of C and D, right? Immediately go get rid of C and D, because those are contrasts. Now then I have to ask you, because we got in broad terms and we got for example, both of those would be correlative. But for example would be a specific. Is the fact that philosophy is a study of meaning and values underlying thought and behavior, is that an example of what we were talking about previously? No, so in broad terms, really, that's your transition? Yeah. Because I now described in broad terms what philosophy is. We can. Anything before 39? 38? Another 3 C's? Let's address this 3 C's. What's happening before 38? A 1994 survey concluded that only 18% of American colleges required at least one philosophy course. Well, that's not good. That's a negative. Afterwards, between 92 and 96, more than 400 independent philosophy departments were eliminated. Also not good. So does this contrast? So immediately go get rid of however. Next, does what happened before cause what happened after to occur? Does the fact that there's a study that saw 18% of American colleges requiring at least one philosophy course, does that cause those 400 independent philosophy departments to be eliminated? No. Therefore and thus have to be thrown out. And that should have been a little bit of a warning for you. Therefore and thus, those are quite interchangeable. They can't both be right. Right? So, moreover, I just got more to say. Also, remember perspective, time, and quantity degree? Remember those? Remember I told you they also impact the writing? Can someone give me a timing clue as to why it can't possibly be causal?
Because it's between 1992, which is before 1994.
Can anything in 1994 cause anything in 1992 to be true? No. So the timing clue also could help us. And 39, again, from a great distance, I love A, right off the bat. I'm gonna test it, see if it works. Does it work? It does? Pick it. Concise.
Wait, would 39, would writing as, go in for the whole underlying clause? So it would
Yes.
just say analytical writing as measured by standardized test scores, like it just scratches
Yeah.
the whole result?
So whatever's underlined gets removed, and whatever's offered is put in its place. So it would read like this. Also, studies have found that those students who major in philosophy often do better than the students from other majors in both verbal and analytical writing as measured by standardized test scores.
Oh, okay.
It works, we pick it. Next,
I got pretty far right, but
I'm sorry?
I got pretty far right, but I wasn't like,
Okay, whose lifetime are we talking about? Get the context from before. Yeah, students. Is students singular or plural? Plural. That's it. So saying his or her is singular. We need plural, there.
What about 43?
I don't feel bad about 43, everyone gets 43 wrong. It's a very specialized sentence structure. I've never seen it except this once. To tell you what it is essentially what it is the little clause in fact, the fact, is not put in at the beginning of the sentence. It's implied, it's understood. So let me give you an example don't look at that sentence. The fact that you are practicing the SAT will help you perform better on the test. The fact that you are doing this is my subject. This entire nominative clause, this is my subject. The fact that you're doing this. But I can get away without saying the fact. I can say that you are practicing for the test will help you on test day. That you are doing, so this whole clause is my subject, and that's what's happening here. So if you read this, the fact is understood at the beginning. The fact that these skills are transferable across professions makes them especially beneficial. So we delete it. It's a rare sentence structure, but this whole phrase, that these skills are transferable across professions, makes them especially useful, beneficial.
So when it's structured with that beginning of the sentence, can you substitute the fact in for that?
Well, if it makes sense, yeah, I would test, but again, not very common. I don't expect you'll see it. If you do, try to say, would it make sense to say fact that? If so, then that's what's happening, but rare. Anything else? Okay, cool. Now, going forward, from today forward, every time I give you homework, I want you to do it on the clock. I want you to do it timed. And if ever you run out of time, I want you to say, put a mark, ran out of time here, but finish the rest. I've had students go, yeah, I didn't do the last 17 items because I ran out of time. You need to practice, mark that you ran out of time, but go do the rest. And so we want to start developing that internal body clock that says, okay, I need to keep myself moving. So all future homework will be done time. If you run out of time, mark it and finish. And we're also gonna start keeping really close track of how many errors are we making in each section. And I want you to track your progress to see, can we reduce your number of errors over time. Sometimes you might go like, oh man, I did worse. And then you do better. You know, your highs and lows will vary, but over time, your scores will get better and better. So, shall we go to practice test 3, section 3? All right. Now this one, again, I wanted you to have your cheat sheets out. I wanted you to be watching vocabulary, language. I wanted you to be trying to not just be stuck in, I gotta do classroom algebra. Yes, do algebra, but I want you to get lazy. I want you to, what's the least amount of work to get this done? Right? If it's algebra, do algebra. If it's cheating, I'll plug a number and see what happens. I'll draw a picture, and that's quicker this time. So, first page, 1 through 4, any errors in here to discuss? Are we okay with our fractional exponents? We need to know fractional exponents. Are we okay with negative exponents? We need to know negative exponents.
Can we go for 6?
And 5.
Sure. Next page. How many of you for number 5 answered the number 10? A.
Yeah,
Okay, this took me so long to figure out how to do, and then once I do this,
Hold on a
like,
second.
I'm so stupid.
Okay, guys, in the math going forward, I need you to keep track of the types of errors you make. Because I jokingly at the beginning of the session said that there's no reason to get any of these questions wrong. The math's so easy, there's no reason to get any of them wrong. Okay, no, there's these 5 reasons. There's 5 reasons. 5, according to my training, there's only 5 possible reasons you could get an item wrong. You know, your answer was close. It was close, but you got it wrong. You put 2,250, the answer was -1/2, but you were close. There's one of these errors. And it's important that we keep track of the types of errors you're making. So, let's take a look. C stands for concept. It was a concept error. I don't know this concept. No one ever taught me, or your math teacher will tell you, yes, we did, but you forgot. Right, or maybe you're busy doing calculus and you forgot this basic algebra issue. So is it a concept? No problem. I'll teach it to you, or reteach it, as it were. Did you miss key language that should have told you what to do? That's important. That's why we have the Watch Your Language sheet. We need to be keying in on language all the time. We know this. We know that half the times the math, well, maybe not half the time, but a good chunk of the time we're not even doing math, we're just catching key language and we know what to do. And we know what the answer is. Was it an oops? Turns out 3 + 5 is not 9. Brain fart, my bad. You can manage that. Did you fail to apply one of our beautiful cheat strategies? Was it a strategy opportunity failure? Strategy error. And lastly, did you fall prey to the enemy? Did the enemy laid a trap for you and you walked right into it? These are the only 5 reasons why you should get an answer wrong. And you keep track of it. So I was working with a student one-on-one last week, and she had exactly 5 errors, and 4 of them were language errors. And I go, you know what you need to do? Go back to Watch Your Language sheet and reread them, and make sure you know the cues, and be more sensitive when you read your questions. You gotta focus on the language. 4 of them were language, 1 was an oops. Like, well, you can manage that, and go watch your language. So it's important that every time you have an item wrong, you mark it with a C, an L, an O, an S, or an E. And sometimes we may need to mark one item wrong with a couple of different indicators, right? Maybe you missed the key language, and there was also a strategy opportunity. All right, let's take a look at number 5. Now the trap, the enemy trap, if you picked A, you're gonna put an E. You fell prey to the enemy because you solved for X, but we don't want X. We want X divided by 5. That would be the reason you got that wrong. Other than that, just a strategy opportunity specific, that's not on your cheat list. Anytime I see 2 fractions equal, my brain goes, I can cross multiply. Cross multiplying, there's probably 4 or 5 opportunities per SAT test to cross multiply. It's a tool you ought to have right here ready to pull out and use. Any other questions on 5? Okay. Let's go to 6. We see a system of lines, okay, and there is a solution, and we need to find both. So we don't get to cheat this one by plugging values in, darn it. They're making us find the x and the y and then subtract them. So we don't get to plug in values from the answers. So how do we algebraically approach this? Elimination would be my preferred option. And you can do substitution as well, but I think that would be more work on this one. Let's walk through real quickly the elimination to make sure that we have that C concept. Because if you did not do elimination, you need to put a C concept. Because this is the perfect tool for the job, algebraic. We have 2x minus 3y equals what?
-14.
And the other one is 3x
Minus 2y.
minus 2y equals
-6.
-6. So what is elimination? And if you don't know this, or if you're uncomfortable as I walk through this, you really need to practice that at home or with your math teacher. Because elimination, they specifically, purposefully, intentionally give you at least 2 opportunities every test to use elimination. It'll be the perfect tool for the job. It's like they made a vested interest thing. We want students to prove that they can do this. So, what do you want to eliminate, the x or the y? Don't matter, we need to eliminate one of them, and then we'll go from there. Let's eliminate the y. So what are we going to multiply this entire equation by and this entire equation by if we want to get rid of the y? We're going to multiply by 2, and we're going to get 2 times 2x is 4x, 2 times negative 3y is negative 6y, and 2 times negative 14, make sure you multiply times that by 2, is negative 28. Sometimes when I was your age, I would be in a hurry and I would just forget to do the last one. Oh, come on. What are we going to multiply this by? All right, now, the students in Bedford, for example, have been taught you must have an opposite symbol, and then you add. Okay, you could do that if that's your comfort level. I don't need an opposite symbol, because if they have the same symbol, I subtract. If they have an opposite symbol, I add. How are you guys trained?
Do the opposite symbol.
You want the opposite symbol? That's fine. Do that. I don't really care. When I show my students how to do this, as long as the number, as long as the absolute value of the number is the same, that's all I care about. But you want opposite symbol, you're gonna have to multiply by a negative 3. Negative 3 times 3x is negative 9x, and positive 6y, and positive 18. Then, because they have opposite symbols, we simply add. If they had the same symbol, I would subtract. 4 plus a negative 9 is 5x. They cancel, and I'm left with a negative 10. Divide both sides by negative 5, and we get x equals positive 2. Take your 2, go plug it into whatever seems the laziest to you, I don't care which one, I'll put it in here. And I got 2 times 2 is 4, minus 3y equals negative 14. Subtract 4 from each side, I got negative 3y equals negative 18. Divide both sides by negative 3, and we get y equals positive 6. So what is 2 minus 6? That's, they really forced you to have to do this or substitution, which I think would be even harder in this case. All right, again, linear, some textbooks call it linear combination, others call it linear elimination. Whatever they call it, do it. So if you missed that, put down C for concept. Okay, number 7? Guys suck at cheating. This is so easy to cheat. What do you see in that table? What do they represent? Not 1, not 2, not 4 ordered pairs. Did you take your ordered pairs and plug them in? We should do 100 push-ups. This is too easy to cheat. I don't even know what this question's about, but I know I'm going to get the answer. I plug in a 0 in A. Does it yield me a 3? I plug it in B. Does that yield me a 3? C? D? None of them work? I quit. Or I got 3 other ordered pairs. Let's keep cheating. Plug in a 2. Did any of them give you a 1? No. Plug in a 4. Did any of them give you a 0? Yeah, C does. Plug in a 5. Did any of them give you negative 2? I wonder what the answer could possibly be. Do I even have to know what this question's about? No, I just have to go, I will plug every one of those suckers into every equation I see until I know what the answer is. And that's the way that's so easy to cheat.
There's a way to cheat with this, like,
Like, when I looked at was 4 and it was.
I was
like a
looking
4
at those
and 0,
and I'm like,
like-
I know there's an easier way to do it.
Yeah.
so you plug in the X values?
And see which one would yield the corresponding Y value.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Beyond that, there's a language cue too. So if you got this one wrong, you missed a beautiful cheat strategy, so put an S, and also put an L. Here's the language cue on this one. The language cue is, which of the following must be a factor? And you guys know that factors, like, let me just do this real quickly. If you have a quadratic, this is a factor, this is a factor, right? These are your x-intercepts. Watch your language. On the back of the language page, back of the language page, x-intercepts, what else do we call them? Zeros. Solutions, roots. These are your zeros. And as a factor, they're in the land of opposites. And so when they ask me which one must be a factor, they're saying in the land of opposites, what gives you a 0? That's what the language cue is there.
Oh my god.
That's
So the language, a factor is in my land of opposites, it should be a 0. A factor in a polynomial is a 0. It should yield you 0. Okay? So between the language and the strategy, those are the 2 takeaways. Number 8. No way, you didn't get number 8 wrong because you saw the ordered pair and you plugged it in, right? Right? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's another 100 push-ups. Ordered pairs is the easiest cheat. Why just plug it in? Plug in C for X and D for Y, what happens? You get D equals
Yeah.
KC plus 4, and you solve for K.
Yeah. I got it, but I was like, really confused at first. Like, I just didn't know how to solve.
There's your ordered pair. I go ordered pair, where can I plug it? Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Is that key?
And and then all of the language is blah, blah, blah. I can look at my options, remember, one of the cheats is compare and contrast your answers, for connections and conclusions. And I go, oh, look at, all of them have B and C, none of them have K, I wonder what I'm supposed to do. I'm probably supposed to solve for K, right? So, order pairs, plug them in. Next. Oh, watch your language. If you got 9 wrong, you're not watching your language because you're just learning. But here, what's the language that tells you what to do here?
No solution.
Circle it, that's the key. Maybe you didn't notice it. Look at your watch your language page. When it says no solutions, it means same slope. And what is the extension in bold letters that I gave you? What is the extension? Yes, it's same slope, that's what's gonna solve, but what might you need to do?
Make them equal?
Yeah, I could convert them into y equals mx plus b format. I could, but that's more work than I want to do. If you look on the back of the watcher, on the front of your watcher language, it says, on the line side here,
X, Y.
this is your takeaway. The x and y coefficients are proportional. So let's create a proportion. So everybody look at the 2 equations. I saw my language, no solution. I immediately go, oh, k is to 4 as k is to 4 as -3 is to -5. It turns out the negatives will cancel each other out, but this is I should say k is to 4 as -3 is to -5, and then cross multiply, as I said, you'll be up to do cross multiply a lot of times, and solve for k.
That's so easy.
Yes. So it's always easy, but you needed to catch the language. Q tells you the coefficients are proportional. A whole lot easier than converting them into y equals mx plus b format. That's a little bit more painful. So the answer should be A. Be honest, I want to hear, some of you missed number 10, did you not?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you have for an answer?
I had
Those of you who put D, would you please put this as your takeaway? It's your enemy trapped you. Check it out. Let's do number 10 real quick. As good algebra students, I'm sure you saw the 2 equations and you said, oh, y equals 25, I'll just substitute that into my first equation, right? Right? Okay, good, good, good. And then you go, hey, I think I could probably take the square root of both sides, and then you did this, and then you did this, and then you did this, and now you're trapped. Your enemy has trapped you because 9 times out of 10, it won't matter, but when you forget, it'll bite you on the butt. You don't do this when you take the square root, you're gonna get burnt. Just be in the habit, take the square root, plus or minus. Oh, it doesn't matter here, but I was watching. Square root, plus or minus. Now it doesn't matter, but I was watching, because now it does bite you. What's the other possible option? 6. Now when you get these 2 values, you can go reread the question and go, why do I have 2 values? Oh yeah, it's a parabola with line intersection. And they want to know the distance between my solutions, which is, no, you're not. You just need to get used to the enemy traps in the language.
I picked 60 and I'm like, oh, this is so easy.
Yes. Yeah, so your takeaway, plus or minus, please, otherwise eventually you'll get burnt like on this one. And that's a bit of a, they set you up for that on purpose. tell you what, we've gone past the hour, let's take a quick break at this point and then we'll pick up with 11, all right?